Hey everyone, it's Brad and Josh here, and we welcome you to We'll Bring the Popcorn, the ultimate film and TV podcast.
On today's episode, we're going to be reviewing the new comedy film Anaconda in Part 2 of Stranger Things Season 5.
Anaconda is a new action comedy film starring Jack Black and Paul Rudd as two best friends who are obsessed with the movies. Now, Jack Black, his life hasn't gone exactly how he wanted it to go. He's doing wedding videos, but he's trying to do them with extra flair, making them short films. While Paul Rudd is an actor, but he's struggling because he doesn't really know how to take direction or do things right. And Griff, Paul Rudd's character, comes home for Doug, who's Jack Black's character's birthday, revealing a video that they did as kids, which kind of gets them all back into the kind of the mood of working together, that they missed doing films and doing stuff with each other. And one thing leads to another, and they decide we're going to reboot Anaconda. So they're going to go to Brazil and film a new Anaconda movie. Now, Paul Rudd, with a slight spoiler to the story here, says he's got the rights to do the Anaconda movie, and that gets them all excited, and they're trying to figure out exactly how they do it. But really, everything starts to unfold, which does take a little bit once they get to Brazil to start shooting this independent Anaconda reboot remake of it. And I don't know, I want to see what you thought about this. We may have differing opinions on exactly how this went, or it may be exactly the same. I do want to share a funny story, though. Because of the holidays, we were doing this film at different times. Like, you were originally supposed to do it on Christmas Eve, but I had all my family's stuff going on then. I couldn't do it till Saturday, and I chose a showing where there was one person in that theater, and I chose a farthest seat away, which I joked with my wife I was going to buy the seat right next to it just to be funny, but I wouldn't actually sit next to him. And then here comes Josh walking in, looking straight up at me because he saw my car outside, and we ended up, without coordinating it, because we had different times with our families and stuff for all the holiday stuff, and we ended up seeing the movie at the same time.
With Christmas Eve, I was planning on seeing it like mid-afternoon because I'd worked like an earlier shift on Wednesday, and I was like, I'm just going to knock it out and then go do the Christmas thing. And then obviously with, Stranger Things that we're going to talk about later as well, like, I know when that's dropping. So I'm like, I could have this all done by Christmas night and just kind of have the rest of my weekend before we're sitting here now recording this. And I bought the ticket. I knew I wound up refunding it was a movie I was already using a free credit for anyway, so this didn't put me out any money, which thank God when we get into the review. But I bought the ticket, and it was just me. Even until I woke up on Saturday morning to go, I was like, "Oh, awesome! I'm gonna have this theater all to myself to see this movie." And then I drive to the theater, and I see your car, which is very noticeable for me anyway, but because we park in pretty much the same spot every time we go
have
to
our
the movies.
VIP parking spots,
as we call it, our VIP spots. And I saw your car, and I'm like, "There's no way he bought a ticket to this movie." I pull up the app, and I see where you had sat. I was like, "Wouldn't it be funny if like I could sneak in? You didn't see me, and I just sit down right next to you and do it." But then we wound up having like two other people in the showing too, which. I happened to notice that they were moving their seat, like their seats were in the same row as me for some reason. Which
whole empty theater, and they bought seats in the same row.
Which is whatever. Like a few seats down from me, it was fine. I wound up moving my seat a couple seats down just to give me a little extra room or whatever. And then I just happened to look up, and there's you sitting there. I'm like, "Hey, how's it going?" And I was like, of course we would still find a way to go see this movie together. But yeah, I mean, getting into the movie itself, it's bad. It's not a good movie. It is try-hard comedy is what I would say it is. Like, there's funny little tidbits and moments in there, but it just misses the mark on so many levels for me. Like, the premise is silly, which I can enjoy a silly premise, but the execution of this film is just not good. I think one of the things you made a good point of, like, touching on in the beginning there is this movie is only 90 minutes long. And it took them over halfway through the movie before they even started to try to make the Anaconda part. And that's what I thought was going to be the meat of the film. Like, they might have spent 15 minutes to 20 minutes setting up, like, hey, this is the backstory of these characters, why they all love each other, why they're all friends, which is great. But they doubled that time before we even we were like halfway through the movie before they started even trying to shoot the Anaconda film. And I'm like, what are we doing here? Yeah. Like, you're just taking way too long for all this extra BS stuff. And you try to shoehorn in this side plot of this character, Anna, who was on the run, but we didn't know if she was good. Was she bad? Was she on the run from some bad people? Was she a bad guy? Like, we don't know. But, like, this whole other unnecessary side quest story that just had no business being in this movie whatsoever. Like, it's, at the end of the day, it's just not a good movie, man. Like, there's some little light chuckle moments, but it was just really, like, in a lot of cases, very cringy comedy that, like, just didn't seem to work for this movie at all.
This felt to me like Saturday Night Live putting skits together, trying to figure out what works and what doesn't, but they put all the skits that didn't work together and made a film about it. Yeah. It's kind of it's a comedy that's really lacking comedy. It does feel like it's trying too hard. Incoherent story, because the main part of the story is these friends trying to make Anaconda, but you bring in Anna and gold smuggling story with guys chasing them down that you think are the bad guys, and then you also get a third subplot within that. So having two different plots, wasn't enough. They added a third, which gave you a little bit of a light chuckle when you bring in kind of a wrench that gets thrown into their plans on everything, but ends up leading into the finale and everything else with it. But like, I barely laughed at this. I think I laughed more at the cameos and maybe one other scene I chuckled at. It's a really big waste of Jack Black and Paul Rudd, both who I really love. Steve Zahn, I'll admit, he can be hit or miss in what he does. He can be really funny in many things, but he just plays this over-the-top, cartoonish type of character, which they spend like 5 minutes on a pee joke with him, which was just like ludicrously ridiculous and everything. And it just I turned my brain off. It wasn't enough to get enjoyment out of it. Like, it just felt like the movie itself was as haphazardly put together as their movie was. And maybe that's part of the point, is that the overall movie's reflecting just how bad their independent film is. But I didn't really laugh. I didn't really get any enjoyment out of it. Like you said, it took so long to get into it. There was barely much of the Anaconda in the movie. You've got over-the-top acting for the scenes, which could be somewhat fun, but you never really sat in it for too long. And Paul Rudd's character you kind of really didn't like, even though he's a very likable guy. Yeah. And you can play roles where you don't like, but he just felt like almost like a sleazy guy who only cared about himself all the way throughout the movie. And so I don't know. It was a mess. It was a big mess. I wasn't sure if we were going to be on the same page. It's like most of our reviews, we don't talk about it until we sit here, because we want the discussion to be organic and not swayed by anybody else, each other's opinions, that we can both tell our, raw feelings on this movie. But it's a comedy lacking comedy. Yeah,
it's a hot mess, and it tries to, like I said, it's a try hard comedy. Like, I think they were trying a little too hard to be like wink wink nudge nudge. Like, you were trying to be a little meta, but the meta wasn't landing in a way that was, because when it's done right, it's very funny, and it can be. But it was just, it felt stale. Like, it felt like this comedy belonged like 6-7 years ago, and it may have worked, but it just doesn't work now. And like I said, the best parts of the movies are the cameos, like the cameo appearance, like,
because of how ridiculous they were.
Well, but they fit because it's Anaconda. Like, I don't think I'm spoiling. Like, that's the biggest spoiler I can give for the movie is it's about a reboot of Anaconda, and there are cameos, and there are people that are very clearly mentioned in the movie throughout the movie that show up as cameos.
And they already spoiled one of the cameos before the movie even came out. Like,
I didn't even
the marketing and everything else. If you saw any of the red carpets, or if you saw any interviews, they ruined it right away. Well, at least one of them. But it was, Anaconda's a B movie. It's a very rough, not great film. But you could have had fun with doing a reboot and remake of doing a silly behind the scenes type of filming. But what really drug it down was the Anna stuff, like, or Anna, because Anaconda, Anna, ha 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 ha. And that literally is a joke in the movie, so sorry if I ruined that for you. But why did we, you just needed to add more action or something into it, but it just really made no sense that we had this whole illegal gold mining in Brazil type of storyline of this woman trying to get away from people chasing her, and she ends up with the group.
It really didn't benefit anything.
Because in the end, it had no bearing on really anything. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
It was pointless.
Yeah, it was just a hot mess is the best way I could describe this movie. Like, you even have Tandy Newton, who is a great actress in her own right as well. She plays Claire. She's like the fourth person in the group here. And there's like this weird, like, shoehorned love story in there as well. Like, her and Paul Rudd were like dating in high school or something, and then they reconnect, and like part of the movie is like this weird love story about them like falling in love with each other again. Like, it was just weird. Like, it made no sense. It was like nonsensical. It was just like, you're trying to create some interest in the story by throwing these things in there, and just none of it worked. Like, it just didn't work. I had a hard time really just like laughing at the film. I'm sitting there watching this film. I'm like, I should be laughing because these are like you said, love Paul Rudd and Jack Black. I will watch literally anything with them in it. And they've both had their fair share of hits and misses over the years, but it's like this one was just such a huge miss. Like, you have potential to have two dynamic personalities in a film, and you just go too hard into the meta slapsticky, like, stuff that doesn't work. Like, because there's good slapstick and there's bad slapstick. Like, an example I would give of good slapstick is basically the entirety of the Naked Gun movie, right? Where they do the slapstick deadpan stuff, and it works very well with rapid fire jokes, and like, it hit, and it was just so funny. And then you get on this side of it where it knows it wants to be slapstick, but it, like, I keep using try hard, but like, it tries too hard to be funny.
Yep.
And it just doesn't work. And you're just like, oh man, if you could have made this a little bit more organic and a little more like not as try hard, it would be so much funnier. And it's just setting up for a big disappointment. I had very low expectations of this movie going in, because the premise of it is absurd. I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot because Jack Black and Paul Rudd are in it. Like, absolutely give it a shot. It could wind up being very funny, very smart, very witty. And it was none of those things. Like, I could not be more disappointed in how this movie turned out.
Yeah, I think try hard is the best way to talk. They were just, everybody was overacting, just trying to force every joke, every bit, everything through. Paul Rudd was really uneven in this too, because like, part of his stick with his actor persona was that he got fired from some jobs because he couldn't stick to an accent or a way to deliver something. He would do random. And I felt like he was doing that throughout the entirety of this film. Like, he would be doing a different voice almost every time he talked, or his body language would change to how he was almost like more feminine in one part, especially with the voice he does, but then back to like trying to be the hero and hard talking. And again, maybe it's all supposed to be that way in meta and just the movie inside of a movie inside of a movie inside of a movie, but it just tried so hard. Like I said, it felt like skits slapped together to become a movie. Like, it just, nothing ever really felt cohesive with any of the jokes, any of the story. It just, it almost failed in every way that it could for me. Just, I got a couple light chuckles, but most of the time I'm just sitting there with a blank face, just like, okay. Like, I came in with very low expectations, turning my brain off, just wanting to hopefully just laugh at the absurdity.
Absolutely.
But it went too far over the line to where it kind of just lost most of its comedic elements. Everything was pretty much telegraphed of exactly what was going to happen and how it was going to happen. And it just, and then, like I said, the whole pee joke thing smack dab in the middle of it while they're trying to run from the giant real anaconda, which was all CGI, and all the snakes in here are CGI, so it was kind of also poorly done CGI on top of that. But they spent so long on that piece. Was that supposed to be at Paul Rudd's expense because he was on Friends, and that was a big joke in Friends? But he was never part or anywhere near around that series when that pee joke was made, because they even references like, isn't that just with jellyfish? Oh, no, that's with everything. Like, it thinks you're going to laugh at moments, but it just falls so flat.
It's like really funny to the person writing the movie, and it's not funny to anyone else. And that's unfortunate, because like I said, the potential's there. Like, you have brilliant actors in this. Like you said, Steve Zahn has moments where he's very, very funny as well. Like you said, he's got some things that he's just not as good in. But I mean, the elements are there for a solid movie. And that's not even talking about the goofy the snake handler guy that's involved in this movie as well. So Santiago, who is a character playing a character, you know what I mean? Like it was so over the top and silly with the connection that he had with the snake and just his placement in the movie. And then you get the funny like mid credits teaser like of what happened to him in the movie, and you're just like, I just don't care.
I wasn't even planning to stick around for that like teaser mid credit scene that they had. I was just sitting there like, that's really all they gave us, and I was getting up and getting ready to go, and then they did that, and it was kind of pointless unless you're going to do another one, but I seriously doubt this is going to make enough money or have good enough reviews that they're going to want to do another one. Like I said, this was a Saturday morning and 9 a.m. that we went, and there was 4 of us in this screening. The 12 o'clock one may have had 10 people, 15 in it, but I don't see this making a whole lot of money. I don't see it have any staying power after the reviews and people feel like we wanted to enjoy it. I wanted to have a silly, dumb time, especially after holidays and people are stressed. It kind of felt like, all right, just give me a good, dumb comedy that I can laugh at after the stressfulness of the holiday season. But it just, I barely had any chuckles, and most of it was chuckling at how ridiculous it was. Even one of the main cameos was ridiculously over the top, but it was fun that they're kind of the meta poking fun at themselves along with poking fun at what was going on around.
Yeah, and unfortunately was the best part of the movie.
Yeah, and that was 30 seconds towards the end.
Maybe 2 to 3 minutes of the movie had that guy in there, and it was just, even then it felt like okay, but I get it. I think it was, I keep coming back to the term try hard, but it was just like it was trying too hard to, it's like one of those, you're trying to like wink and nudge somebody, but instead of just like lightly throwing your elbow at them, you're punching them in the face with it.
And that was the whole movie.
And it was the whole movie. And I was just like, all right, like, let's get on the other side of this. Let's review it. Let's talk about it. This is definitely one. Normally we advocate like going and seeing movies in the theaters. I'm not going to do that for this one.
This one's a wait. If you're really curious about it, wait for it on digital.
I can say I'm super glad that I used my free movie credit.
I also used
you did. You really?
Credit.
That's so funny.
Yep.
But it was just like, all right, like I'm out a little bit of gas money to go from my house to the
2
theater.
hours of time.
Yeah, it's just, you know what? If that's the minimum that got me through this, that's the minimum that got me through it.
Yeah. So Anaconda is kind of a waste. It's a waste of talent between Jack Black, Paul Rudd, Tandy Newton, Steve Zahn. Like there's a decent, solid main cast here, but it is just a comedy devoid of comedy. There's very light chuckle moments. The action is mediocre at best. They try to shoehorn in basically 3 different storylines that they try to make it work around each other, but it does, like, nothing really worked in this. Paul Rudd was really over the top with what he did. Jack Black was just kind of being Jack Black in the end. None of the storylines, none of the comedy, really nothing worked in this. I'm giving it a 3, and that still might be a little high for me on this, just because it was really, I went in with no expectations, turning my brain off, just hoping to have a dumb comedy to make me laugh after the holidays, but it really failed to even, like, barely got a light chuckle out of me. So yeah, I think a 3 for me is where I'm gonna stick on this.
And that's fair. This movie has really no redemptive qualities to it for me. It wastes perfectly capably good performances from Paul Rudd and Jack Black in this, which is unfortunate. I'm giving it a 2.5. That's kind of where I landed on it, just because it has those actors in it, and it's a movie that happened, and it's a movie I went and saw. So it gets a 2.5. Like, there's not really any redemptive qualities to this. This is one that I can say I saw it, and I have no problem not seeing it again. Normally, we're big advocates of, like, go to the theater, form your own opinion on this. I'm very comfortable in saying there's very few people that I feel will get a ton of enjoyment out of this. I think there will be some that do, and this could be humor that speaks to them, but it just did not speak to me at all whatsoever. Mm-hmm. Like, it was very disappointing, and for that I have to give it a 2.5, just out of, like, respect to the actors that were in it. And that's kind of where I'm willing to leave it, because it missed the mark so many. Like, I can be forgiving when I have no expectations for a movie and it still kind of just a letdown. But it was just like, it's one that was just like, why did this movie happen?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's unfortunate because, like I said, the talent in the movie is there, but they just gave them absolutely nothing solid to work with. And for that reason, I have to give it a 2.5.
Yeah, like I said, this film almost feels like it's mirroring their progression in the film of doing an independent film when they get together and decide, are we going to do this movie? Oh, we need this much money. Well, we can't get that. Let's do this, and we're just gonna wing it. And this movie really felt like they just winged I would be surprised that there was a script to this movie and that it just wasn't fully winged 100% through it.
There's a moment that I completely forgot to talk about when we did it. When they started the whole montage of them trying to figure out the budget of the film and they're going to make it. And Jack Black just comfortably goes in and is like, to make this movie right, we're going to need about $9.5 million. I forget what the number is. It was
2.5.
It was something in the millions of dollar range. And then they get approved for like $9,000 or whatever the heck it was.
Steve Zahn's character.
Yeah. And then Jack Black, for whatever reason, through Hollywood magic and working his way to crunch the budget, gets it down to like 40 grand. And you're like, what?
You take 2.5 mil or something down to 40 grand.
It's so stupid.
But they don't even show where they got that money from
like
at that point.
Well, the very loose thing was Claire was going to finance the film. So I guess she put up like 40 grand of her own money to make this. It was just so stupid. Yeah. But yeah, it was just, that was absurd to me too, where you're just like, okay, you're comfortable taking a multi-million-dollar budget down to about 40 grand for this movie. Okay, like let's get into it. It was just, I don't know. It was just one of those things that was just like, that's so dumb. But okay, we'll make it work.
This is also another film where the trailer, we saw a ton, and it had what you might consider out of a bad movie being the best clips and best parts of the film. So when those moments happen in the film, you didn't really care because you had seen it in the trailer so much. It was one that kind of really just bad marketing with a bad movie. It just overall just... I like Jack Black. I love Paul Rudd, and Tandy Newton is fantastic, but it's just they work together well enough, even though they were all kind of over the top and slapsticky, but it just didn't work on any level. Did this film work?
Not at all. And it's one that, unfortunately, we have to give a pretty harsh grade to, which I think is more than fair. If you've seen this movie, please come to our comments. Let us know if you feel differently, if we're missing the mark, if we're just being a couple curmudgeons up here talking about a movie that we just flat out didn't enjoy. Let us know about it. Let us know if you feel any differently about it. We'd love to have that conversation with you, obviously, but one that I feel like, nah, it's all good. We're good on not seeing this movie ever again, honestly. But hey, they can't all be big hits. We've been spoiled pretty heavily with really, really good movies this year, and I know we're going to talk about that coming up in future episodes. But this one was definitely one that kind of ended the year a little bit on a whimper for us. And if this is our last movie, it's definitely not reflective of an incredible year that we actually had at the movies for sure.
Yeah, so Anaconda's in theaters right now. If you want to go check it out, I would go on a discount day. If you need to go to theaters for it, it probably is not going to be in theaters very long, but this is one we can both comfortably say, wait till it hits streaming before you check it out, just because it is a pretty big disappointment. We are now partnered with Dubby Energy. Dubby is a clean energy drink to give you focus with no crash or jitters like other energy drinks.
Dubby contains vitamins, amino acids, and 150 milligrams of caffeine. It also features 0 calories, no sugar, no fillers, and no artificial dyes.
From Dragonade and S'mores to Push and Punch and Galaxy Grenade, Dubby has a wide range of flavors for you to choose from.
Use code WBTP to save 10% off your Dubby Energy orders and look for a direct link in the audio and video descriptions. So now let's move into our review of part 2 of season 5 of Stranger Things. It dropped Christmas night, not Christmas Eve, even though all the other drops are on the eve of the holiday, not the actual holiday themselves, but we can talk about that at another time. We got part 2, which is leading up to what is going to be a very exciting, hopefully explosive finale that's coming up this week on New Year's Eve. But we've got the next 3 episodes here. We got episodes 5, 6, and 7. The run times were a little over an hour for a couple of the episodes and just under an hour for the other. Like, it was a pretty breezy move through of about a little over 3 hours total runtime for these 3 episodes. And this, if I could sum this up as bare bones as I can for these first 3 episodes, I would say this is the more character development centric lead up to kind of tie up some of these other loose ends that we need to get to so we can really, kick butt and take names in the finale that's probably going to be hopefully mostly action, explosive. This final fight, this final showdown with Vecna and the creatures in the Upside Down and in the underworld. And we get quite a bit of stuff answered and some things like resolved before we go into this. I'm curious to see how you feel about these episodes, both as a whole and kind of what really stands out to you among these three that we just got.
Yeah, this was definitely a big information dump. You're trying to really get everything out there that you need to get out there because we have one episode remaining after this. It's going to be over 2 hours long for the finale on New Year's Eve, but this was really the exposition. This was really getting into the meat and the bones of, and we do finally get the answer of what exactly is the Upside Down. And this is going to be heavy spoilers as we have to talk about everything that happens in here. And so we'll kind of start going mostly episode by episode, but we might jump around a little bit. But episode 5 picks up immediately after where we saw Will use his powers and everything. And it was kind of interesting as he unraveled in this episode and the 3 episodes here of that. Well, we think Will is another 11, but he kind of puts it as, no, I'm not in a way. I'm channeling. I'm able to basically take Vecna's power. I'm able to channel because of how he used me before and everything. There's that connection that I can utilize his strength, his power to have powers, but I don't necessarily have powers myself. And they kind of went in that a little bit of Will explaining that to everybody. Like, I'm not exactly like 11, but I do have a way that I can do stuff. And it was really interesting in that way to do that. You have Vecna, has all 12 kids now. So we have stuff moving towards the very end.
Yep.
The one thing that I'll go ahead and jump in here of a slight disappointment in these 3 episodes is Dr. K, is that we just didn't get enough we got the introduction of this character. We got a bit in the first part with her, but in this group of 3, she's just kind of there. Yeah. Now we get lore that explains exactly what's going on, and which is Dr. K is trying to restart the program. But we're learning all this from 11 and her sister and all that stuff. I think Linda Hamilton probably has less than 5 minutes of screen time in these 3 episodes, if that. That was my only disappointment, because if you are really going into big about this being another Papa situation, another thing like that, I wanted to see a little bit maybe more backstory or more information on Dr. K, which maybe it's 2 hours. Maybe we'll get that in the finale. But I feel that was a little underwhelming with Dr. K of not giving us enough of that side. Maybe we didn't exactly need it because we've got 4 seasons that have gone over what Papa did, and she's just kind of basically doing the same thing. But that was the only big nitpick for that character that I can think of for this group, that it became a big part of the first 3, but she kind of disappeared here.
Yeah, for sure. She doesn't get a lot of time in this, but this is very much focused on our core group and their progression going into this finale. And it's wrapping up and resolving a lot of things that have been kind of through lines throughout the entire run, almost the entire run of the show. You've got the off and on friendship of, Dustin and Steve. They're mad at each other, they're annoyed with each other, like they have some unresolved things, and that pays off in a big way here where they're back on the same page. Like the whole like getting things out and communicating and talking and really just like laying it out there for each other, like when they're both done being just the most stubborn people to ever exist, like they finally get to have a conversation where they really resolve things, and you get them back on the same page going into it, where they have kind of the callback line to the previous seasons where it's like, if you die I die kind of thing. And that was rehashed, and that was awesome to see. You have progression with the Jonathan and Nancy story, where I see so many people are just like, we wish Nancy would end up with Steve. Steve and Nancy are the couple that we want to see coming out of this so bad. And they kind of throw a little bit of cold water on that a little bit, too, with Nancy.
Cold water on everything
yeah.
with Nancy.
Yeah, they really did. Like, Nancy has a very interesting arc that they're getting to the finale here with her, in that, they have this, like, you can see they're both, like, connecting through this shared trauma with, Jonathan and Nancy. It's almost like a a relationship out of convenience even, and you see them kind of bring the resolution to their relationship in a scene where they're feeling like they may potentially die, so they kind of leave it out on the table with each other, like, hey, literally on the table. That's why I said what I said. But they're literally on a table and just bearing their souls to each other, like, hey, we have this shared trauma and that's kept me close, but it's like, I love you, but I don't love you, kind of thing. Like, it was a really powerful moment there too. The unproposal I thought was a cute touch too. Like, I was like,
"Will you not marry me?"
Yeah, really. It was kind of a cute touch. It was a little cheesy, but a lot of this show is cheesy, and it's part of the charm.
80s cheese.
It's part of the charm of the show. But you get that where Nancy feels like needs to figure herself out, which she very much needs to do after, especially all of these people really need to do after all of this craziness, whoever makes it out. But you get that, and you get her kind of saying, she's like, I like Steve, but I'm like, Steve's not like a romantic interest necessarily. Like, she likes Steve, but she doesn't like Steve. Like,
in a way, like she says, Steve knows what he wants and what his future
and it doesn't align
looks like, and Nancy doesn't really know what her future looks like, and
So,
she doesn't like that kind of, well, yours is already set. I have no idea what mine is.
So it doesn't completely slam the door shut on it, but I think it pours a ton of cold water on a lot of people hoping that those two wind up together. May or may not happen. Who knows what the finale has in store for us, but you get movement on that, and there's just so many other things, and I don't want to speak to all of them, but I'll let you talk about some of them too, but those were two big ones that really progressed throughout these 3 episodes that definitely felt like they wrapped up in a way that can move these characters forward into the last episode.
Part 1 was all about kind of breaking the team apart again, because they're all going in different directions in the Upside Down and outside, and they're trying to, hit it from different fronts. And these 3 were about bringing them back together, but also bringing the characters together. You get Eleven and Hopper having a talk after, she learned that he had this bomb, that he was planning to kill himself, and that he just wanted to die. And 11 calls him out and has this kind of big moment together. But you also get Hopper and her sister 8 just trying to figure out a relationship between him, because he's not very, because kind of 8 through all of this is like, she has one thing on her mind, and that's ending everything for good, and the only way to do that is killing all of them.
In her mind, yeah.
Anybody in her mind, is killing just anybody who's part of the program. That's the only way this ends. And from the military side, but also the subject side, like, everybody has to die. And you touch on so many different relationships. You get a big moment between Will and the whole group in episode 7, and anyone who's hating on that episode just because of that sequence, shame on you,
of course,
as far as I'm going to go into that. But It's a really touching moment, because as we get into episode 7 there, we're getting towards the end of them trying to, all right, we're putting together a game plan. We don't know what this is going to mean for a lot of us. So they're all kind of coming to these realizations of who they are, what they need to come to grips with in their life. And Will's been hiding something from everybody past the powers or anything else. You have Robin and Vicky kind of coming to grip with their relationship, and also, Robin fully telling Vicky exactly what's going on, and her not believing, which that hospital sequence was pretty fun over. I really kind of going off on a tangent, jumping. I said we're starting with episodes. I'm jumping all over the place. I really thought Mrs. Wheeler was going to die in the hospital with the tanks, because you see her wake up and she looks at the tanks, and all right, she's going to do something with them. But I thought she was going to like sacrifice herself to save her kids and everything else. But she gets kind of the moment that I was kind of talking about in our last review of part 1, is that Terminator type of moment, and you get the big explosion, you get her walking through the smoke and everything, like she's getting the Linda Hamilton treatment there, which I thought was a lot of fun. That was also very reminiscent. That sequence with the demos was Jurassic Park in the kitchen with the raptors. Like, that was very much a touch, which of course that didn't come till later, but I know you saw something else that doesn't come till later that popped up in the episode that you had a little problem with on Holly's sleeve.
Yeah, so there's a very brief moment in episode 7 where Holly is kind of recaptured by Vecna and put into that weird vine-looking tree where he's got
Spire,
everybody, where they're connected, and she has the the vine shoved down her throat and everything like that. Well, she wakes back up and she's like trying to break out of it, and she breaks it out and breaks through, and you see this glimpse of her sleeve, her undersleeve, and this is a very clear editing miss by the team, and I have to kind of poke fun at it. She's wearing an Under Armour undershirt underneath her clothes, and you clearly see the UA logo. Under Armour as a company didn't exist until the 1990s. It wasn't a thing, but it was showing up in the show set in the 80s. Bird's eye noticing from
Vecna and Holly started Under Armour.
Apparently they did, which good on them. They made a lot of money. But it was a very funny like editing miss that I think was very funny, and I happen to now have seen some videos of other people pointing it out, but I caught it like immediately watching it. I'm like, she's wearing Under Armour. Like, when did Under Armour actually? And I looked, and it was in the 90s. I was like, yeah, that definitely shouldn't have been there. So had a little bit of a funny moment with that.
Yeah, I didn't notice it, but I was also kind of writing notes as I went through the episode, as I put too many notes out for
go back and
our
watch
reviews here and stuff. So I'm going to have to go back and look for that, because who knows if they'll go back and edit it anytime soon, or if they'll just leave it as a blunder. But yeah, there was so much that went into this episode with relationships between a lot of different characters, trying to really wrap up their storylines and that unsaid or said, type of feelings between a lot of characters, but it also unravels the mystery of the Upside Down.
Yep.
Because all this time we've been looking at it as an alternate reality, like there's another dimension that we're going into, and I guess it's somewhat still there, because Dustin finds some notes from Dr. Brenner, and they also, because they're still kind of split up, that Hopper and 11 and 8 are looking for Dustin and them, but they went off trying to see if they could find a way to bring this wall down. And during that time of bringing the wall down, Dustin discovers something that he thinks is going to destroy, that there's this exotic energy that is keeping kind of everything together. And through Dr. Brenner's notes, he discovers, well, the Upside Down is actually a wormhole. They are in a wormhole that's in between their dimensions, and the other, or between Earth and Hawkins, and what he dubs the Abyss. And the Abyss is where Henry ended up being sent when 11 kind of defeated him before, and that's how he transformed into Vecna, was being sent to this kind of desert, desolate world that chipped away his flesh and turned him into this creature and monster. And that we learn that the whole plan of Vecna's this whole time was to be able to bring the Abyss to Hawkins, to take the Abyss and the Earth and make it one. And so they have to hatch a plan, and the whole thing is trying to figure out, all right, how do we defeat Vecna, but how do we stop this from ever happening again? We've got to close the wormhole. We've got to stop this connection. But you also learn that, the program that's being restarted, Dr. K was draining the blood of 8 and putting it in pregnant mothers and trying to recreate the program. But the problem is, her blood wasn't right. They need the blood that Henry, who really did start all of it, they need his blood. They need whoever has his blood. And who has his blood? 11.
Yeah. And that's going to be a big focus going into this last episode as well. But we also get, continuing on with relationships and things, I think who gets an incredible arc in this is Max, really. She's been kind of a heavier focus character, especially with last season and going into this season. She's been in this comatose state in the real world for so long, and you see that she spent so much time in this abyss realm and all of these other things where she hasn't been able to get back to herself. Well, we get resolution to that in that really fun hospital scene that you're talking about, that's kind of coinciding with her journey with Holly to get out of the Comazats. That's the area they're trying to escape from, to get back to their bodies in the real world, to kind of get back in the fight a little bit. And you get this big emotional moment here, and it's my one real story bit nitpick of this set of episodes was the length of the monologue that she had with Holly when that door was right there for her to run through, and she spent so much time getting there that they focused on. It was a great moment with her and Holly, her trying to talk Holly up, hey, you're braver than you're giving yourself credit for. Yeah, you've held up and hesitated and froze when moments counted, but she's also like, you've also done X, Y, and Z, which it just kind of, she's kind of laying out her whole progress that she's made here. And everybody with any kind of common sense would have been like, just freaking run to the door. We'll figure it out later.
Even when they finally start moving toward, I know they did it in slow motion, but it was like they were walking instead of running.
I feel they drug that out just a little bit too long, and I think everybody that watched it would agree with that. It's a very minor grief with the overall story, and everybody's kind of making fun of it now, when it's just like, girl, run. You've been waiting.
It's also how the story was done because, you know, Max is telling Holly this whole time, we have to find a door to get out of here. And then we finally get there and get to the door, and we see Max and we see everything there. But then she's like, oh, no, your princess is in another castle type of deal to her. Like, hey, this is my door. It's not your door. I'm going to leave you in this red spooky land. And you're just going to have to figure it out yourself. And, of course, that monologue opens up her portal and everything else. But she's like, well, I have no idea where you're going to wake up at. So you're just kind of on your own. Go find your way back to your house. And it was a weird moment. Like, I understand that they're trying to figure out that those portals are back to the individual. But it was that weird that you've gone on this journey with Holly for so long to get out. And then you're like, all right, peace out. I'm gone. You go fend for yourself.
It was very funny. I was just like, if you break it completely down to its bones, like, that's so silly and absurd. But here we are, we're moving forward with the story, but you get Max back and you get this incredibly emotional moment where she does make it back. And this is where kind of like episode 7 kicks off, is with her waking up and Lucas like trying to, you know, get her back to open her eyes and be present and everything like that. And you get this real emotional moment. I just love the love that Lucas and Max have for each other and the story that they've gone on together, like coming full circle. And I'm not gonna lie, I got choked up a little bit with some of the dialogue between them, because it was just like, you stayed by my side like this whole time. You were always there for me. I could hear you. I could feel your presence. Like, I could hear. And he was like, yeah, and I was always playing the song. And then she was just like, I never needed the song. I just needed you. Like, I needed you there. And I'm like, so much, but that was so good, so brilliantly written. And I was just like, oh, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. Like, it was just such a good moment, man. Because I still got to say, out of all the characters on this show, Lucas might be my favorite character, like the one that I like the most on the show, because he's gone through so many ups and downs like throughout this entire run, but like him really coming into his own here and being that, you know, that loving, having that love for Max and just, you know, wanting to kind of not only protect her but fight for her and all this other stuff. He has a really cool moment where he's just like literally carrying her physical body with the radio, and he has like a really cool, like, not practical at all, but the cool moment where he just like front kicks the Demogorgon trying to attack him in the elevator. I'm like, hell yeah, Lucas, let's go. Like, he had some really good moments in here, but that relationship too, where you get her back into the fold, and, you know, she's still not physically like able to do much because she hasn't moved in forever. And they kind of talk about that too, with her like not using her eyes in so long, or her muscles, and like, I think we're all waiting for that moment where she kind of regains the ability to rejoin the fight physically in that finale too, because that's going to be a really powerful moment, and we're all kind of waiting for that. But moves that forward in a fun way too.
If it happens, that's kind of where you're left. Like, is she going to be on the sidelines where everything else happens because she's been on this kind of comatose journey? Is it realistic to have her body be strong enough to kind of help out anything? Because it ends in a almost feels a little bit rushed way. Like, all right, how do we get to this abyss world? How do we get through everything? Well, he's hiding in the sky. How do we get to the sky? A helicopter. Okay, well, no one knows how to fly a helicopter. Well, let's just go to the military base and force one of their pilots to fly us into the sky. That felt a little haphazard at the end, like a little silly, like we're doing all this. All you had to do was have Murray, who is such a
he's a literal
jack of all trades. You could have introduced that back in the Russia scenes where they needed to fly, you know, you knock out the pilot and everything else. Like, okay, I can fly a helicopter too, or something like that. Like, it may have been a little convenient that he can do it, but it's better than, we're just going to go back to the military base and force a pilot to take us into an unknown realm because we need it. Yeah. But I also, even though I like the Jonathan and Nancy sequence of them learning, I'm still trying to understand exactly the goo. with everything, because I get that the building is melting and stuff, but it all becomes like this liquid concrete, and it's just kind of a really odd type of goo that was happening. Like everything was turning into this one note color and all that, and it trapped him in there, but it's like all outside of it is filled with it, but this one little room that Dustin and Jonathan was finally able to break into after a while, but also how it solidified since it was still going crazy over top of their head and everything. Like that sequence as well. Like there's some things we can nitpick a lot more in part 2 here when it comes to the story points of exactly like, you know, they've walked through it all and they're covered in this stuff, but it didn't look like they had what was on them was like solidified hard, because it looked like it turned to concrete afterwards, but like everything was fine and they weren't like stuck in the concrete or anything else. It was just a few nitpicky things with that. I do have to touch on Derek a little bit in this, because he's been such a silly, fun, over-the-top character to add to this. He's got some one-liners of, especially saying it to Vecna and everything that he says, but you also get Vecna threatening him and showing like, all right, here's your dad, and his dad doesn't have his eyes and is clearly dead, and shows his mom same look, and his sister, and all right, you got this tough little punk who's been running his mouth nonstop to everybody, and you finally get a moment to where he's like, you know what, I'm legitimately scared because I put on this big front, but this isn't actually me, because it comes a point where Holly is trying to convince these kids that everything that Vecna has been saying and doing, that Mr. Whatsit has been doing, is a lie, because Mr. Whatsit is telling them that Max is a demon, and that all these others are trying to prevent them, because he has to convince them to join what he's trying to do without knowing, Holly, you know, the darkness of it. And Holly gets herself beat and choked and goes like, these three were really about whipping Holly's butt, because as we said, she's with Max and they're trying to figure stuff out, and Max, you know, I've been doing this for, in her mind, it's been years that she's been wandering around, and Holly's like, well, I'm going to go out in the desert and do it myself, and she falls down a hole, and Max rescues her, and then, you know, she doesn't have her portal home, and then it opens, but she opens up, and she's in the spire, and she has to find her way, and she falls down through the wormhole, and like they just put her through the ringer in these 3 episodes, and it's not done yet with putting her through the ringer.
That poor girl, man, she goes absolutely through it in these episodes.
Bravo to the actress. She's done a great job.
So freaking good, man. And I know they just recast her for this season because it's not the same pair of actresses that were playing Holly up until this, where she was being played by twins, but like this, like she does such a good job in this. And the one scene I jumped out of my seat to cheer was when she hit her friend with the thing and took off running. I was just like, yeah, go, like fight, like heck yeah, like this is part of that like journey that she needs to go on, where she realizes that she's stronger, and then that poor girl, man, like she like you leave it in such an ominous place, which is by design, obviously, to set up this incredible finale. I gotta say, like, so far with the pacing, I think people are nitpicking it a little bit more because it is broken, how they've been releasing it compared to the other seasons, right? Like last season you had a part 1 and a part 2, but every other season before that, the other 3 seasons were just straight drops of episodes. And in this one, you're getting 2 very tonally different drops of episodes, where the first part of it was so much more action heavy, you know, get to it, run and gun, with a little bit of character development. And this one was like the 180 of that, which, if you follow these seasons, is very much the formula of the show pretty much the entire time, where you get some jump off at the beginning, and then in the middle towards the end, you get the character progression forward. It's more character focused. And then the last episode's always a banger. Like it's always some epic conclusion to the season, and I think it's very much following that formula. But because it's being broken up into 3 parts, like I think people are a little bit more down on these 3 episodes because it's not as action focused and action heavy, when that's never really been the Stranger Things formula to begin with. It's not all action all the time. You gotta it's always been about the growth of these characters throughout these seasons, and you're getting that, and I think it was done very satisfactorily, in my opinion. Like, I really enjoyed the progression all of these guys got to go on throughout these 3 episodes. Like, we're getting to the end, and like you said, there's a lot of stuff they need to resolve in 2 hours. You have 2 hours left. Like, this last episode, I will say, I will be a little harsher on it if it doesn't deliver on the finale.
It has to stick.
It has to.
After 9 years and 5 seasons of this story,
absolutely
it has to stick.
It has to stick. We have to be set up for an epic, and the fact that they're willing to release this on its own and put it into theaters, I'm more optimistic that it's gonna deliver what we think it's going to deliver. I'm more optimistic of that. If it doesn't, guess what? We're talking about it next week. We will come and absolutely rip it to shreds if we have to, but. They're taking a big swing in respect to him here because you're releasing this one episode by itself. Here it is. Here's the end. Let's see what we get. I'm locked in. I'm so ready for it. I'm so glad it's not a month wait like we had between these first two drops, and it's just 6 days. But like Wednesday night, I will be locked, glued, ready for this finale. It's gonna be insane. It might be the most watched single episode in Netflix history. I would be willing to bet.
I'm curious to see how Netflix handles the load of that night, because it's shown in some of these bigger releases they've crashed, and you're talking about a 2-hour plus finale of their biggest show.
Yeah,
that's going to be a pretty hefty. I do want to jump back to Holly just for a moment, because we talked about how much she's gone through and stuff, but she also gets a big reveal with Henry, with Vecna, because they do find hidden in the desert this kind of cave that they go down into, and they are able to unlock a memory, and it's basically there's a injured man with a briefcase. We still don't exactly know what was in that briefcase. You get a slight hint, but he's injured and he's got a gun and he's crawled back and he thinks people are after him. So we know, like, even way back then, because we get to see Henry as a little kid in his Cub Scout, Boy Scout uniform and stuff, that way back then this stuff or experiment or something was happening, and he shoots Henry in the hand. So Holly's watching a kid get shot in the hand through this memory, and then watches as Henry goes and beats the man to death with a rock. Like, she has seen and gone through so much traumatic stuff, but it opens up another element of Henry, that he's had a tragic kind of youth to him, that nothing in his life has been easy or good. And it seems like from that point on is when it really went to the bad, not only because he killed somebody, but whatever he discovered there led him to being into that program and becoming Vecna and everything. So it was a very huge core memory. And now we know why Vecna was so scared of going out into that desert area, because it's his most traumatic memory as a child of being shot and killing somebody.
Yeah, still just enough of a human element there to keep him kind of human there, to kind of remind him of his humanity there, which is a little bit more powerful and subtle than people think. I do want to give a little bit of a credit to one of my favorite like sequences in this. Like, it was like it wasn't a minor thing, but it was a minor thing in the show. It's when they try to get Will to tap back in to kind of get through and reach Vecna and find Vecna again, and you see that he's chasing down Max and Holly, and he has him kind of pinned down a little bit, like he's ready to get him, and you see Will tap in and get there, and you see him take control of Vecna for the first time, really, to see him kind of turn it back around on its head to take over Vecna. And you see that really cool sequence where he's just like controlling him, and you see Vecna trying to fight it, and you see him take over, and he's like, Max, if you can hear this, run. And then he like breaks Vecna's leg.
Screaming run.
Yeah, like it was kind of a cool callback to like earlier in the season as well, like with the run and like him doing that in other seasons.
And also her song kind of, running up the hill.
Yeah. And it was a really cool moment too to see him kind of tap into that ability. And it kind of makes me wonder like how they're all going to have to work together to stop him, because I don't think 11 doing it on her own is going to be enough this time. You're going to have Will involved. And that's where I think even Max is going to come into places. Maybe she may not be able to do a lot of physical stuff, but I think she might have the ability to tap into that too.
Maybe. Because she's been locked in his mind for so long.
Correct.
What is she going to be able to do?
Correct. And I think there's some untapped stuff there that's going to be like a big, oh, you know what moment. Like, hopefully, for her, because I can't see her not being involved completely.
Like, you finally bring
She's been
her
through
back,
too much.
and
she's going to sit on the sidelines. I don't think that's entirely going to be the case. She's got to have some big moment to kind of give that middle finger back to Vecna here. Like we're going to stop you. And like, I think she's going to have some big part to play. I don't want to project too much. I hate doing that because like, I think that always sets people up for disappointment. If they like think, hey, I know what's going to happen here and here, and if you don't get that, I think it's disappointing for people.
I was going to see if towards the end, when we wrap up here, if we wanted to speculate what we think might happen in the ending, or if we want to leave it open and just watch.
You can
and keep that to ourselves.
Go for it. Like, if you want to talk about what you think is going to happen, that's fine. I want to refrain just a little bit. Like, the little bit I will say is I do think Max is going to have something to do with it. I don't want to speculate on who's going to die and who's not going to die. That's somebody.
Probably several people, or one person at least is going to
There's
die.
going to be, in my opinion, I would like to caution people on expecting a complete bloodbath, because I think even the Duffer Brothers have thrown a little bit of a cold water on that. Like, I don't think it's going to be that heavy. I do think we are going to get at least one major gut punch.
There's going to be a somebody's going to
sacrifice, and it's who it's going to be. Yeah. You can speculate all day long. Is it going to be Hopper? Is it going to be 11? Is it going to be Steve? Is it going to be Dustin? Is it going to be who, what, when, where, and why? That's exhausting. Like,
because they've set up so many threads trying to get you to guess, because Hopper had the bomb and has always seemed like he's willing to give his life for everybody else, and you have 11 who potentially
is kind of coming to grips with the fact that it may be her that needs to.
You've got 8 who says, like, we can't come back. Like, when we go, if we want this to end for everybody you care about, we cannot come back. But when it's foreshadowing too much, you're like, okay, that's not going to happen.
Like, it can't be that either.
Something like
that.
And
you get a little too
even Will, it seems like you could say, well, Will says he has to be there with them to do stuff, and he's had that strong connection. Does he have to pass for that connection to happen, or will he finally be free and get, finally start being able to live his life? Because since being a little kid, he hasn't been able to live his life.
You want to talk about going through it, Will? My God, enough to drive you crazy. But yeah, I mean, do you want to speculate on anything? Do you want to talk about what you think could happen coming up?
Yeah, it's really hard to tell because of that back and forth. You have had Hopper, we basically killed him off, but he went through and ended up in Russia, and he wasn't dead. So you've already technically killed him off at least once. You had him do the bomb and stuff in there. He's a character that you really feel is set up to be the sacrifice, but I feel like it's too
easy to pick.
Obvious for him to be the one that sacrifices. But I do see if, like, 11 feels like she has to sacrifice herself, he is not going to go back without her. Like, if she stays, he stays. I do feel, if he can prevent it. Now, if 11 pushes him away and saves his life in that way, I do feel like we're going to lose at least one of the kid group.
Yeah, for sure.
And maybe one of the parents. Like, for sure. Maybe Joy sacrifices herself for Will. Maybe Hopper does. Yeah, I do feel like maybe 1 or 2 deaths, but I don't feel it's going to be a red wedding like, you mentioned. I don't think it's going to be that big, but someone has to be the one who takes him down, and it's going to kill. And you're also not only trying to kill Vecna, you have to close this wormhole. Someone has to drop a bomb. Does Murray end up sacrificing himself for everybody else? And that kind of stuff. Like, there's so many different ways you can speculate of what's going to happen, because they've set up, like, you had Mike and 11 talking about, after this is over, nothing is keeping us from leaving Hawkins and going out and living our life. And then we get here at the end with 8 and 11. It's like, yeah, you have Henry's blood, so as long as you're alive and you're out here, that it's never going to end. But what if they wipe out the military and the whole program? Yeah. And, like, there's so much that they've left open for you to speculate with, that there's going to be 100,000 theories where someone's bound to going to have it mostly correct. But I hope there's plenty of surprises, and it's not a red wedding, because you need to have some hope coming out of what has been a very dark, near hopeless type of story.
Yeah, and what I'm hanging my hat on, at least, and it all goes down to how online they actually are, is seeing the Duffer Brothers say, we've read so many theories and nobody's figured it out yet. So I'm kind of wondering what it is, because people have speculated on, like, the whole wormhole thing and other things of what the Upside Down actually is. But they seem to think that they haven't seen who's gotten it right. And I'm telling you right now, I'll call it. Why not? Who's going to make the sacrificial play? Ted Wheeler. Ted Wheeler is going to come and save.
He hasn't been
He
seen
hasn't
since
been
that
seen
attack.
at all. I have a buddy, Nick, who is like obsessed with Ted Wheeler, and he was just like, "Justice for Ted. Where has Ted been? You get Mrs. Wheeler with this amazing redemptive story, and there's no mention of Ted Wheeler at all." And I'm like, I want to show a little bit of love to Ted. Like, let's go. Let's have him make the grand save for everybody. Ted Wheeler, save your family. Go out the hero we all know you are.
I'm gonna laugh if there's a Ghostbusters crossing the stream type of joke within the abyss that they're trying to figure stuff out and they're crossing the hoses or they're doing something like something. Ghostbusters has been a huge running joke and reference throughout. You know, their geekiness of D&D parts and Ghostbusters and other stuff are gonna play in there, but it would be funny if there is kind of a group almost like Ghostbusters attack on Vecna that, you know, doing a reference like that of how they defeat him, like he's a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man and they're crossing the streams to melt him, or something else like that. That there's something big because, you know, physically they can't fight him. That 11 is close, but she hasn't been able to. Will can siphon the powers, but isn't as powerful because we do see Vecna push him away and basically put him into a coma and take over his mind again after Will had taken over his. So we know that he's still the ultimate power. So how do their powers combine, become Captain Planet and defeat him?
It's going to take the Megazord, and I'm here for it. Let's go. You know, who's the Tyrannosaurus? Who's to say? But like we have to get there. We have to wrap this up in the most epic way possible. I'm crossing my fingers and praying to whatever deity you believe in that they're going to stick the landing here for sure. Like it's setting itself up for an absolutely epic final episode. I'm so stoked that it's bittersweet. I'm happy and I'm sad. Like I'm so excited. I know I'm going to cry ugly tears when it's over, whatever happens. Like it's been almost a decade run for this show. Like so many things have happened in this entire run, and we're finally here at the end. And I just pray that they stick the landing, give us something absolutely epic and satisfactory to end the show. We know there's going to be like spinoffs and other things that happen for it, but they've already come out and said that the spinoffs they're going to be kind of their own thing. They're not really related to what's happening here. So I hope they give us a very satisfactory conclusion for this. I'm expecting to have my heart broken, but I'm also expected to cheer and, you know, yell at my TV one last time for this show. And I'm excited for it.
I'll do one last little speculation of someone who's going to be Dusty.
Think so?
You've had that kind of, he doesn't exactly care about himself.
Sure.
And he's, you know, still wearing the Hellfire Club shirt and getting in fights
and
with the bullies, which I said I didn't fully, like, where are we going with the payoff when it comes to those bullies again? Because we know throughout the season 4, it was all about him. Because his girlfriend was killed and he's trying to hunt him down, and he's still on that because he still believes that Eddie was responsible for it, because even after everything that's happened, not everybody in Hawkins knows about everything that's happening. But, you know, and it kind of is touched on by Jonathan that you wanted to get yourself beat up. You wanted to be in that fight, that you wanted this to happen. And he's kind of not exactly been the coward. He's been able to step up with Susie and done other stuff, but he's been one who is more on the sidelines when it comes to the action and fighting. But it truly shows that he has a big heart and he cares for his friends, because with Jonathan, he's telling him, I don't want you to die. You feel like you're just going out there and you're willing to sacrifice yourself, or Steve, not Jonathan, sorry. And that Steve is willing to die and just doing stuff haphazardly. I feel like he's going to end up stepping in the way and taking a blast or a hit for someone, and show that even though he doesn't always share or open himself to his friends, like his heart and his feelings towards his friend is undying. Yeah. And I feel like he could be one of those secret, maybe just lower end
absolute legend
sacrifices.
I've seen a lot of people predict like he's going to be one that we're going to lose, because it feels the most apropos for him, especially given as much as he idolizes Eddie as well. Like he was, you know, it's been kind of a through line for him this entire season, is that connection that he had to Eddie and how much his sacrifice meant to him, and kind of what better way to honor your friend than to make a similar sacrifice to save everyone. And it could be, and that could be something that actually does happen. And honestly, if I were to speculate, he would absolutely be one on my list that I would put as a very high likely candidate for that. And we'll see. Hopefully Hopefully it's not an absolute massacre. I know there's some people, you sickos out there, that are hoping for like a Red Wedding type situation. I don't think we're going to get all that. Yeah. There's going to be loss. There has to be. There's always loss in Stranger Things. Like, that's part of the journey all of these characters have gone on over the course of the years. There's always been some losses incurred throughout. And we'll see who ends up making it to the end unscathed. We'll see. There's a lot of plot armor around certain characters that have made it to this point, and maybe that gets stripped away here at the end. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see who's bulletproof and who isn't.
What if Bob wasn't actually dead and he shows up in the abyss with Frodo and destroys the One Ring, and it just
give me Bob.
You get some more Bob. Like, that was one that really crushed people when you brought in Sean Astin to be Bob, and you're getting, Joyce getting that relationship and stuff, and he got one of the more brutal deaths in Stranger Things kind of history, of just getting eaten alive by the demos. And it was one of those rough ones, and maybe we'll get a reference to him. We still potentially might see Henry's dad again, which we all know the legend that played his dad in this series, because he even kind of hinted at there's a lot in these last 2 hours of 15 minutes, if I remember the time right.
I think it's like
it's
2 hours
over
and 5
2
minutes.
hours something. Yeah. But there's a lot that they can still do there, that they got most of the story elements here. There's still going to be some stuff that unfolds of what led from him down in that cave to becoming part of the program, and a little bit more of him in the abyss. But we're here. The group's back together. They're getting the plan together on what they're going to do, and it ends with them starting to execute that plan. So it's going to pick up in that final episode right away, or it seems right away. Vecna has executed the start of his plan. The group has executed the start of their plan. So I have a feeling this is going to be 2 hours that's just nonstop going. Because you got to figure there's got to be a little bit of setup and things that happen probably with the military and the lab before they make it up to the abyss. Because you figure once they get up to the abyss, that's just final battle, final attack. There's not going to be mystery like walking around the Upside Down. It's going to be the fight.
Yeah, it's got to be. And we'll see, man. We're here. It's been almost a decade, and we've got this one final episode to go. All of the episodes of Stranger Things season 5, parts 1 and 2 are out on Netflix now. Go check them out. We got the finale. Hopefully you're watching it New Year's Eve when it drops, and good luck if you're going to see it in theaters. I really wish we had more showings here, because I would love to take the time to go watch it there as well, but I'll be glued in too, and hopefully Netflix stays up. Like, I had a much easier time getting into this part 2 than the part 1, maybe because it was Christmas and not everybody was watching it right at 8 o'clock when it dropped our time, but the finale, everybody is going to be online waiting for that, and I'm hoping we get a pretty ease of access into getting this last episode, because we're all chomping at the bit to see how this ends, because what a journey we've been on.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see it on New Year's Eve here. I still feel like they missed a huge opportunity to have the finale air on November 6th. Like, of course, that time's passed now, but this whole series started with November 6th. The last episode in pretty much all of part 2 here was on November 6th. So you could have had the finale drop on November 6th and just have that kind of moment, like, hey, it's ending on November 6th when it all ends. But
marketing, my guy. It's all about marketing.
Let's stretch it out between Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, which I get, but it would have been kind of satisfying, because it's also my birthday, to have it end on November 6th. Make it about me. That's what I'm trying to get about.
You.
Make it about me.
And the truth comes out. It's all about Brad. No, I get it. That would have been a cute, fun moment too. But we're here, man. I'm excited. I'm ready for it.
Yeah, like I said, it's almost a decade that we've been waiting on it, and we've talked about it before that we hope this isn't a sign of other shows, because we have House of the Dragon that's also doing it, and Game of Thrones final seasons do it. And Duffer Brothers have talked about a little bit about taking more time in between seasons, but you really can lose your audience and have problems. Well, we even see with Avatar, The Last Airbender on Netflix, between season 1 and season 2 here, there was a big glow up between Aang, because he is much older, and it looks like a different actor, but he just grew up because of how long it took between the seasons.
That makes me think of another thing I just read. I want to say it was yesterday that I read the show Pluribus on Apple TV. that is become very, I want to dive into it. I've heard it's really, really good. Like, apparently Stephen King's a big fan of it. And I guess the creator of the show said they were going to take their time making season 2. Mm-hmm. And Stephen King tweeted out like, "Hey, don't take too long. I'm not going to be like, I'm not going to be around forever," which made me laugh. You know, somebody as prominent as Stephen King, who like fanboyed over the show and how much he loved it. He was like, "Don't take forever to make this," but it does kind of speak to that. I'm all for like taking a little bit of time if you get the quality of it right, but it's got to hit.
If it takes 3 or 4 years in between seasons, that's hard to really care about that story for if it's taking
it loses momentum for people. And I've heard some people say like, hey, like they just kind of stopped caring about season 5 of Stranger Things even because it was just like it took over 3 years to get this last season. Like, who cares? And we'll see if that has anything like. There's going to be so many people that watch this finale. It's going to be insane. I really want to see the viewership numbers of just the finale to see what kind of records it breaks. I have no doubt that it's going to be Netflix's most viewed single episode thing ever done. Yeah. And I'm very confident in saying that.
Oh yeah. It's, I think this season probably should surpass Squid Game and everything else, but I don't know if they've ever released a single episode's like viewership. So I hope that they end up doing that for this one because you've got to figure. I don't know if I'll try to watch it on New Year's Eve simply for the fact that I do truly feel it's going to crash and struggle for a lot of people. Some people might be able to get through just fine, but I think it's going to be a little bit of a nightmare for people trying to watch it right away because you think you're going to have millions of people watching on New Year's Eve so they can cancel Netflix on the first and not have another month going. You know people are doing that and going to have to do that, but it's going to be interesting to see how it holds up viewership-wise, but also if their servers and everything is prepared for that. I mean, they've got into more live streaming stuff with WWE and boxing and NFL, and they seem to be handling that okay, so maybe it's all right, but this is going to be a huge influx of people watching this
on a scale unheard of. We'll see how it holds up, but that's it for 2025, man. This is the last episode of the year for us. Thank you everybody who has supported our show. Now that we're going into our 3rd year with the next episode, 2026, so much to look forward to, and we'll talk about those on a later episode of all of the stuff that we're looking forward to coming up in the year. It's an absolute banger for both movies and TV shows. We were kind of talking about that a little bit before we started recording here, but man, so much stuff to look forward to in 2026. It's going to be a good year.
Yeah, we're going to kick it off with our review of the series finale of looking at Stranger Things as a whole and see if season 5 ended the show on a good note in a good way. I think we've got one more episode. I don't know if I'll get to it before we do the review just because of when it drops to when we record, is watching all of season 5, binge watching it instead of the broken up. But yeah, we're going to kick 2026 off with the series finale of Stranger Things.
Yeah, kicking off a new year with the ending of a show that's been popular for over a decade. I'm excited for that. That's gonna be a big one. Hopefully, like we've said, hopefully they stick the landing and we have something epic to talk about at the end. And we can kind of just nerd out and fanboy over the entire series and kind of give our thoughts on the overall progression of the story from start to finish. So we'll be excited to talk about that.
But thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.
To find all of the episodes of We'll Bring the Popcorn, go to our YouTube page, hit the like and subscription button so you're getting our episodes when they drop each and every Monday. If you're listening to us in the audio room on any of the podcasting platforms that we're on, please don't forget to give us a 5-star review. It really helps elevate the profile of the show. And don't forget to go to willbringthepopcorn.com, where it has all of our archive videos, all of our social media information, as well as our merch store, so you continue to support the show in that way. We cannot thank you enough for your continued support.